Hey everyone, it's Andy again with the Pokemon Go Meta channel here. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the best moves in Pokemon Go, best attacks, and whether or not TMs should be introduced into the game. So, for your fast primary moves, it's like the first move, the top one when you're on your Pokemon's screen. It seems like damage per second is really the most important factor in determining if it's a strong move or not. And if you haven't checked it out, there's this great site called the Poke Assistant, and I'm going to leave you some links in the description of this video. It has all of the primary, fast, and secondary charge moves listed on a huge chart, and it lists them based on damage per. It ranks them based on damage per second, which I think is a great helpful tool to anyone who wants to take this game kind of seriously. So for the 10 best primary moves, fast moves in terms of damage per second, according to the Poke Assistant website, which they say is based off data derived from Niantic, so it seems like it's reliable to me. The 10 best moves in terms of damage per second on their list are Pound, Metal Claw, Psycho Cut, Water Gun, Scratch, Wing Attack, Dragon Breath, Bite, Fire Fang, and Shadow Claw. And I think there's one significant move that's left off this list. Hold on one sec. Excuse me. There's one significant move that's left off this list, in my opinion, and that's Bubble. As you may know, is the fast primary attack that has the highest damage of any other at 25. And according to the Poke Assistant list, that's actually about the 20th best fast attack when it comes to damage per second, because it's so much slower than a lot of these moves that are at the top. It has an attack speed of about 2.3 seconds compared to Pound, which is about half a second. So even though Pound is only a 7 damage attack as opposed to 25, the fact that you can do it more than 4 times, almost 5 times faster, does make it significantly stronger than Bubble. So don't be deceived by the strength of an attack or the damage done by an attack and thinking that that will necessarily make it the best attack that you can get, because for anyone who's trained at a gym or attacked at a gym, you know that attack speed is maybe the most important thing to. It's probably the thing that's going to help you win the most, being able to attack really fast. So I'm a little bit confused about the Pokemon Assistant list for Poke Assistant list for one reason, just because there seems to be a few inconsistencies in how they calculated their damage per second, because to me it seems like it should just be a simple equation of damage over speed of attack. So for instance, Pound is 7 over 0.5, which would be 14 damage per second, but on their website it's listed as 13 damage per second, and some are listed as 12 damage per second when they're an attack of 6 damage and also a half second, which makes sense. That would be 12. So I'm not sure where that discretion or that difference is coming from. Could be another factor that they know about that I just am not aware of. It's possible, but even with this little difference here, it's the list they have is pretty accurate. Still, you can go ahead and recalculate all of the damage per second ratings for each attack if you want. I'm not going to do that here just because I don't think I need to, because I could just be wrong about this. But I thought I'd just put that out there because it's something I noticed. For the charged secondary attacks, things get a lot more interesting. The 2 top attacks that are listed on PokeAssistant are Stone Edge, which is a rock attack, and Cross Chop, which is fighting. And what you'll notice about these 2 attacks is that they aren't the highest in damage, and they're only 1 bubble for the entire bar. So you know that if you've played Pokemon Go, when you look at the charged attacks for each Pokemon, there's a variety of different increments that can that the attacks can come in, from 5 to 1. The ones that are 1 usually being the highest damage per attack, and the ones where there's 4 or 5 bubbles tend to be lower. It makes sense that would be that way. So Stone Edge and Cross Chop, they aren't the strongest in terms of damage by any means. I think, let me pull up the list right here. I believe Stone Edge is 80 power and Cross Chop is 60 power. When you compare that with other attacks like Solar Beam at 120, Hyper Beam at 120, you're kind of just like, huh? Like, why are those 2 attacks listed so much stronger? Well, obviously, seeing as this site does list the attacks in terms of damage per second, these 2 attacks are both very fast. So Stone Edge, it has a cast time of 3.1 seconds, while Cross Chop has a cast time of only 2 seconds, which is quite fast for a 1 bubble attack. Even though it is only 60, it's still very quick. Another thing to note about these 2 attacks is that they have significantly higher percentage chances for critical damage than a lot of the other attacks in their power range. Stone Edge is rated at 50%, while Cross Chop is at 25%, when the average, well, not the average, but the norm for critical damage for a charge attack is about 5%. So you can see from that these 2 attacks are very significantly stronger in a lot of ways than a lot of the other attacks. One of the drawbacks, I guess, and I guess why Cross Chop specifically seems to be so strong, is because a lot of, at least what I've seen, and I guess this is just anecdotal at this point, is that a lot of the fighting type Pokemon are slightly weaker than the par, I guess I would say. So they have these stronger attacks. Stone Edge will be interesting if you can get that with a high level Golem. That could be a very powerful attack. So we'll see where that goes. Another charge attack that I really think is pretty good is Dragon Claw, which is obviously a dragon attack. And I think this is a deceptively strong move because it's only 35 damage and with only 2 bubbles, so it only adds up to 70 total damage for a full bar, and with 2 bubbles you'd expect something more in the 55-60 range for your norm. So it doesn't really seem very strong at first, but with an attack of only 1.5 attack time, of only 1.5 seconds, I think this move can be very powerful. Not to mention the dragon moves are typically immune to type disadvantage, except for against other dragons and maybe one other type. I don't have all of the type combinations up right now. You can look those up pretty easily though. And Dragon Claw also has 25% chance for critical, which is a nice bonus. Another move that I like is Brick Break, which is another fighting. And this is another strong fighting move with 3 bubbles that do 30 damage each. So another fighting move that isn't necessarily the most powerful in terms of damage that it's going to put out. I would say is actually slightly lower than what you'd expect on the norm as well, but at 1.6 seconds and the 25% critical, I think it's pretty good. With 3 bubbles too, you're just increasing the chance of that critical. I think this is a good attack. Another one is a Drill Run. This is a ground attack, and I think this is a pretty underrated move. It's actually probably around the middle of the list in terms of damage per second, because it's a little bit on the slower side at 3.4 seconds for the attack. But I was super pleased when I saw that my Sea King had this move, because I think it's pretty strong. It's a three bubble move. Each bubble comes with 50 damage. So that's a total of 150 for a full bar, which is pretty strong. That's definitely above average, and it also has the 25% critical chance. So while it may not be the best move in the game, I think there's definitely a time and a place for Drill Run, and I think that this is an attack that is going to see some play eventually, once more people see the potential in it. Last one I'm going to talk about in terms of the charge attacks is Night Slash, which is a dark move. It's 4 bubbles, 30 damage each bubble, which is about on par in terms of full bar damage. It's about 2.7 seconds per attack, which is again right on par. But I like the fact that it's 4 bubbles with that 25% critical chance, and that's what I think makes this a strong move. Is that you're increasing your chances of that critical damage. And dark moves tend to be fairly well off when it comes to type advantage disadvantages, I think. And speaking generally about these moves, I think it's generally best, even though the full bar damage probably isn't going to be as high. I think going with, in general, a move with only one or two bubbles is going to be ultimately beneficial to you. Because, as Poke Assistant mentions, it takes a delay to charge up these moves, and once you're getting into moves that take a few seconds each, you're going to be wasting a lot of time by using a lot of moves if they're not super fast. So you're probably going to have the best result if you have, at least this is what I think right now, your probably best bet is to have a primary fast move that is as high as possible damage per second, and then a secondary charge move that has a high critical chance and is only one or two bubbles. I think that's probably the best way to optimize your Pokemon's attack potential. But obviously, the Niantic just updated all of the attack strengths in their last update, so this all has potential to change still. So just for right now, I think this is a good rule to live by. Just don't be fooled by moves that seem strong just because they're a high power, is, I guess, the point of this. So TMs. Would TMs be good for Pokemon Go? I think they ultimately could be a very interesting addition to the game. From a business standpoint, this is something that Niantic could probably sell for $5 a pop if it's a good TM. And you say you have a high level X Pokemon and you want to teach it a certain move, but you don't have that move with the Pokemon. You could pay $5 and get the TM and teach it to it instead of saving up all the candy to evolve another one and maybe get it, maybe not. At the same time, would Niantic be able to maybe make more money by forcing players to shell out for more incubators and whatnot? Possibly. It's hard to say. I think just from a gameplay standpoint, it would be cool though, especially if they introduced it in a free-to-play format where they sort of just showed up in the Pokeball item around the map. Just randomly you would run into one, sort of like would happen in the Game Boy games, or maybe they could be in specified locations. You had to go find them, something like that. I think that would be a cool addition to the game. I guess the only drawback that I see from adding TMs is that it would maybe make the game even more pay to win than it's already become for casual players. Especially if it was only offered as an in-game purchase, I think that would be unfair. But we'll see what happens. I haven't really heard anything about TMs being offered yet. I haven't heard anything about that being on the drawing board. But I hope it is something that is discussed in the future, because I think it would be cool and it would make the game more interesting, in my opinion. But yeah, gone a little bit longer than normal on this video, but hope you all learned a little bit from this. Again, I'm going to put the Poke Assistant link in the description below. You should definitely go check that out. It's a great resource. Lots of interesting stuff on there. So yeah, thanks for watching. Look out for another video in the next few days. All right, bye everyone.